Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to wrap up my Q2 pans and empty shadows. So each quarter I do this type of video where I talk about every single pan that I hit and all of the eyeshadows that I finished. And today is no different. So I'm going to share with you all of the pans and of course all of the eyeshadows that I finished. And I have some to share in both categories, which is always exciting. But before I jump into that, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So we're going to start off with the pans first, and the first couple of pans that I have to share with you comes from the same palette, which was my Project Level Up Level 3 palette. So I actually have 3 pans to show with you, which I all hit this quarter as the first 3 pans. And also just to sum up really quickly, in Q1 I hit pan on 11 eyeshadows, and it took me an average use of 11.8 to pan on those 11 shades. So yeah, that was Q1. So starting off with pan number 12, again it comes from this palette right here, which is my At First Sight palette with Raw Beauty Kristi and Colourpop. And the first shade I hit in here was the shade Old Grove right there, and this one took me 12 uses to pan on, so that was pan number 1 for the quarter and 12 for the year. After that, I hit pan on the shade Evergreen, which is this one right there. And that shade took me 17 times to hit pan on, so that was pan number 2. And then pan number 3 is right next to it, which is the shade West Coast, which took me 16 times to hit pan on. So those are the first 3 pans of the quarter, and we're now standing at 14 pans for the year. After those 3 pans, we have a pan to share from my Panda palette, which is the Soft Glam palette from Anastasia. And this one I hit pan on one of the deeper shades in the palette, which is the shade Cypress Umber right there. And in this project it took me 32 times to hit pan on this one. By the way, the uses that I'm mentioning are only the uses that I've tracked in projects. So if I had used these shades before, which I of course had with, like, for example, this shade, those uses don't count in because I didn't track those. So these are only the tracked uses in different projects. But yeah, 32 uses to hit pan on that one, which was pan number 15 for the year. The next pan is also from this palette right here, which is the shade Bronze. And that is this shade right there. So it's a shimmer shade. And this shade took me 10 uses to hit pan on, and it's now expanded a little bit, but that is the pan number 16. We're going to take a little bit of a break from the Soft Glam palette, and we're going to talk about a single next. So the single that I hit pan on came from my Panda's Eyeshadows, and that is this Pastel Roses shade right here called Nectarine. It's a really, really stunning kind of orange base with a strong green to pink shift. So this was one again that I worked on in my Panda's Eyeshadows, and this one took me 7 tracked uses to hit pan on. So that is the next pan, which is pan number 6 for the quarter, and again pan number 17 for the year. And I did say we were taking a break from the Soft Glam palette, but it wasn't a long break, because we're coming straight back to it now. And I hit pan on one more shade in here in the quarter, which is the shade what's it called again, Burnt Orange right here. Which is another matte, and again you can see now that I have expanded that pan quite a lot, but in order to pan on it, it took me 35 tracked uses, which is quite a lot, but it's actually quite funny because it's on par with Cypress Umber, which took me 32 uses again, so you know, around that 30 to 35 uses I guess. But that is the next pan, and also the last pan from the Soft Glam palette this time around. We have another pan from my Panda's Eyeshadows, which came from the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. And I was working on the shade Joy, which is the kind of satin pink shade in the corner right there. And this one took me 5 uses to hit pan on. And that gives us pan number 19 for the year and 8 for the quarter. So we have 2 more palettes to talk about. The next one is my Carly Bible palette, so another Anastasia palette. And I was working on this one in Modeco panning to hit pan on one of the shades. And the shade that I decided to go with is the shade Bowley right here, so the first shade in the palette. And that one took me 6 uses to hit pan on, so that is the next shade. So like I said, we only have 1 palette left to talk about, but it is actually quite a few pans from this palette. And that is my Odin's Eye Merry Christmas palette, which is currently my Project Level Up palette. So you're getting a little bit of spoiler now. But this is what the palette looks like now, so let me talk you through the pans that I've hit. So the first pan that I hit in this palette is the shade Little Star, which is this one right here, so like more of a peachy kind of shimmer. And this one really didn't take very long to hit pan on because they're a very squishy formula and they move around a lot in the pan. So this one took me 5 uses to hit pan on, and that is the first pan out of this palette. For the next pan, we're moving straight up here to the shade Snowman, and this one took me a bit longer to pan on because it's more of a firm formula. So it took me 13 uses to pan on this one. I really love it as like an inner corner or a topper shade. So that was shade number 22 for the year and 11 for the quarter. Then down here we have the very final pan, which I actually pan on today, which is always exciting. That's kind of why I'm filming this video today, because I'm pre-filming it a little bit, but I know that I'm not going to hit any more pans for the quarter, so I thought I might as well do that now. Same with finishing shades as well. But I did a pan on this shade today, and that is the shade Santa Star, which took me 8 uses to pan on, and again that is in the bottom right corner right there. And that gives us our final pan for the quarter, which brings us to a total of 12 pans for the quarter and 23 for the year. So yeah, 23 pans for the year, which also means that I hit one more pan this quarter compared to quarter one, but around the same number, which is always really exciting. So I have calculated up the average again for the pans hit in quarter two. So to summarize again, in quarter one, the average was 11.8 uses per pan. And in quarter two, the average is 13.83 uses per pan, so slightly higher. And looking at the total average for the year, it has taken me 12.35 uses on average to hit pan on one eyeshadow so far in the year, which is definitely manageable. So we're moving swiftly over to the eyeshadows that I have finished, and it's easy because the eyeshadows all come from this palette right here, which is again my Pan Lab palette. So you already would have seen the empty pans, but I'm going to talk you through them. Also to summarize, there was only one eyeshadow that I finished in quarter one, which again came from this palette, and that was the shade Sultry, so that was already gone. But looking at the palette now, you can get a little bit of an indication of what has finished, and we're going to talk you through them. So the first shade that I finished in the quarter was the shade Tempera right here, which was like a cream kind of setting shade. And this one is quite funny because it took me exactly 100 uses to finish up. So that was the first shade that I finished. Very easy. It was a nice kind of blending out shade for me. I don't really set my lid before I do makeup, but I use those couple shades a lot to just like blend out the edges and like almost like an eraser if I take my crease color too high and stuff like that. So I used it up that way. And that was again the first shade that I finished up this quarter. The second shade also comes from this palette, and funnily enough, I also finished this one today, and that was the shade Rose Pink, which was right there. And this one was a shimmer, and I can actually show you because again I'm wearing it today. I'm wearing it on my lower lash line, so you can see what kind of color it was. But it was like dusty kind of pink with a little bit of like a bronziness to it. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a little bit of a bronziness to it. Quite unique. I did enjoy it. The only thing was it's more of a satin, which most of the shades in this palette is. So not my favorite formula, but it was a nice shade, and I like topping it off with other things. But yeah, that is the next shade that I finished, and in total that one took me 66 uses to finish up. It makes sense that it was less than the shade Tempera because it was a shimmer, and shimmers I go through them quicker. And also, by the way, since I have the switches open, just to tell you as well, Sultry took me 61 uses to finish up, which means that for quarter one, again, I only finished one shade, so that was a 61 was the average as well, because obviously it was only one shade. So that was the average for quarter one. For quarter two, the average was higher because both of the shades actually took longer to finish. And with those two shades, it took me an average of 83 uses to finish those two up. And I think obviously that is heightened quite a lot with that 100 uses Tempera shade, because obviously that's going to bring up the numbers a little bit. So 83 uses on average to finish up an eyeshadow in quarter two. And looking at all those numbers, it took me an average of 75.67 uses to finish up an eyeshadow so far this year, which is, you know, quite a lot, but it's definitely manageable. And I do hope that I'm going to continue finishing more shades. You know, I only finished 2 shades this quarter, which means that I'm quite behind because my goal is to finish 20 shades this year, and I've so far only finished 3, which is a little bit alarming, but I do feel like I'm getting closer on quite a few shades in here. And I do believe that next quarter I will have hopefully like at least 4 shades out of this palette, plus maybe a couple more. So I'm hoping to finish maybe like 6 shades in the next quarter, which would be amazing. If I can do 7, that would be a 10, which would be really, really good. So maybe that would be my goal, but I would probably be pushing it. But I do think I can finish up a couple more shades from this palette for sure in the next quarter. But that is where I stand today. But that, you guys, is going to be it for today's video. A bit of a short and sweet one, but I don't have as many pans as I used to. I mean, I had 12 pans to show this quarter and 2 finished eyeshadow, which is definitely good. And this year I'm focusing more on rotating through my palettes rather than hitting pan, which you can see in the numbers, but again, I'm fine with that. I still have 23 pans so far in the year. If I can hit 50 pans this year, I think that would be amazing. That would probably be my goal, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not too fussed about it. I'm also going to try to focus on finishing more shades because, again, I'm so behind on that. So if I lower the pans and maybe only hit like 40 or something like that, that's also fine because I have hit a lot of pans in my panning career, so I'm not too worried about it. And I do want to show more love to like my whole collection rather than focus in on specific pans. But that is going to be it, like I said, for today. I really hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye, guys.